In all likelihood, you saw it on TV or on the internet. This past January, a young woman was walking through a mall in Reading, Pennsylvania. But as she was walking along, she was rather intent on texting on her cell phone. And because she was so focused on her texting, she wasn't really paying attention to what was around her. And she ended up walking right into and falling headlong into an indoor fountain. But if you think that's bad, or if you think that people that talk on their cell phones or text while they drive is bad, just wait and see what's coming next. You see, there's a company that's developing computerized contact lenses. The idea is you'll be able to put in these contact lenses and then look in front of you, and projected there in front of you will be your email, your Facebook page, the news, or even TV programs. So perhaps in the not-so-distant future, it's entirely possible that you'll see people walking around with their eyes wide open, but they'll be paying absolutely no attention to what's going on around them, because they'll be watching reruns of Gilligan's Island on their contact lenses. Wake up and pay attention. That's the warning that Jesus has for us here in this passage that we heard today from the Gospel of Mark. Wake up and pay attention, because someday, at a time we will not expect, Jesus is going to return. And then we are going to be judged based on what we've done with our lives. That is the warning that Jesus has for us. But the thing is, we don't always appreciate warnings. It's like over in Japan, there is a seismologist, a scientist who studies earthquakes, who came out with a book in 1994 warning his country that their building codes were inadequate, and that if a serious earthquake hit the nation, many of their structures would crumble. Well, when he came out with that book, many people in Japan criticized him as being a crank, and his boss even ordered him to go to the government official in charge of building codes and to apologize for writing the book. But then, just 5 months later, in 1995, the Kobe earthquake struck, causing massive devastation, and showing just how right that seismologist's warnings were. As it turned out, a few years later, that seismologist came out with another warning, saying that Japan's nuclear reactors were not built strong enough to withstand earthquakes. But again, many of his peers dismissed him as being too negative. But then, this past year, when a serious earthquake hit Japan, it damaged a number of their nuclear reactors, causing widespread radioactive contamination. It was only then that the people came to realize that they should have taken his warnings more seriously. Warnings are important, not so we can have a longer list of things to worry about. Rather, warnings are important so we can know what is coming and then take steps to get ready for it. Today, as you're aware, is the first Sunday of Advent. And Advent definitely is a time for getting ready. But for many people, when they think of Advent, they think primarily in terms of putting up Christmas trees and stringing lights and making eggnog and buying presents. But the thing is, And many people find this rather surprising. But Advent is not mainly about getting ready for Christmas. Advent is not primarily about getting ready to celebrate the way that Jesus was born in Bethlehem. In the early centuries of Christianity, Christmas was not a major focus of attention. In fact, in the early centuries of Christianity, some Christians celebrated Christmas in March, some celebrated it in April, others in May, and still others in November. In fact, it was not until around the year 350 that Pope Julius designated December 25th as the day when Christmas would be celebrated. But that date wasn't chosen because we know that's when Jesus was born. The reality is we really aren't sure on what day Jesus was born. Rather, December 25th was chosen because that was an already existing holiday that was celebrated in the Roman Empire to rejoice over the way that the days were starting to get longer again. And so that's why Advent is not primarily about getting ready for Christmas. Instead, Advent is primarily about getting ready for Jesus' eventual return. On that last day, when Jesus says that the stars will fall from the sky and the very powers of the heavens will be shaken. But the thing is that for many Christians today, we've lost sight of that aspect of our faith. For many Christians today, we've lost sight of the fact that this world that we know right now is not all that there is. For instance, in our denomination's 1930 version of the hymnal, in the index under the category of heaven, there were at least 12 or more hymns that were listed there. But in the current version of our denomination's hymnal, the category of heaven doesn't even exist. But as Jesus says here in this passage, even if we might find it difficult to even imagine what heaven is like, one day a new world known as heaven is going to come. And we need to use the time that we have now to get ready for that day. When I was growing up, we had a grandfather clock in the entryway to our house. And it would chime every hour and quarter hour. And I still remember that whenever I would have friends to sleep over, in the morning they would say,